I mean, realistically, I just had this unwavering belief in myself. And if everything does hit the fan, I'm going to throw my money like in Bitcoin, go hide in an island somewhere. So,
hey, that's a good idea. I like that.
I'll go to Costa Rica with you, man.
Let's go, bro. The surf is good, man. Welcome to the Real Construction Owners Podcast, where we interview real construction owners and investors doing big things to increase the value of their life and teach you principles that can help you succeed as an owner. Today, we have a very special guest, Ryan Bodin, a personal friend of mine. At the peak of his success in commercial and apartments, he had over 1,500 doors, sold them all, and now has 7 retail centers. The story you're about to hear, you're not going to want to miss. So stay tuned. What's up, Ryan? How you doing, brother?
Hey, man.
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I met you at a GoBundance event where we went to Amarillo. Talk to our audience. What were we doing in Amarillo, like in the middle of nowhere in some canyons?
Oh, man, it was awesome. We met there for the first time. We got thrown into a tent together. And, my favorite part about that trip was doing that midnight hike. We start off at the hike at midnight with no lights and not really know where we're going. Even our leader didn't really know where he was going, and got back at Cape at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
So no, that was incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible.
And axe throwing and masterminding, so many things that I learned from you at that event. One of the things that I learned from you is, and I'm going to say this, but then after that, we'll talk about your story. I'm curious, you mentioned to me, you said, Justin, my rule, maybe it's not your rule anymore, but at the time you said, my rule is I have to make at least $100,000 on the deal, or maybe you're referring to me, I have to make $100,000 a deal or it's not worth my time. Can you tell our audience how you came up with that rule?
Yeah, I mean, it was just dealing with projects that, I was working my butt off for a small deal and the reward wasn't there for me. And no, I mean, I'm continually changing that every few months, my minimum. So I mean, if I'm doing $1 million deal or a $10 million deal, my attorney's fees, my efforts, everything are exactly the same. So
what's your rule now?
I don't know. I'm kind of playing. I switched from multifamily to commercial, right? Mm-hmm. And I think my first deal was like $3.2 million commercial deal, and it was fun. But I'm like, yeah, it's kind of. I need to trade that out. So I've already sold that one. I bought it 8 months ago. I've already sold for something bigger. So it's constantly changing. So
love it. So tell us your story. Before you got into commercial real estate and apartment complexes, like what were you doing before that and how'd you get into this?
Okay. Went to college, got my accounting degree, got my master's, went and did audit for an oil and gas company, got laid off in 2008. When the market crashed, 2008. And so I had no job. And so I went and got my real estate license, worked with my uncle, borrowed 40 grand from my parents, bought a fourplex in 2011, and over the next 11 years, bought and sold, 2,000 or 3,000 units. And I went from 4 to an 8 to a 12 to a 16 to a 24, just rolling it. So, and then COVID kicked in, the eviction ban kicked in, and I'm like, yeah. And then cap rates compressed with multifamily. I'm like, it is a time for me to get out. So I sold them all. So
I love that. So for somebody who's listening, who's not, high level investor, that's their goal. When you say roll in it, can you elaborate what that means for somebody who isn't sophisticated investor?
Yeah, I mean, what I did, I bought the fourplex, right? I spit shined it. I fired the management company. I self-managed. I increased rents. I did this. It went from $100,000 of value to, let's say it's worth 200. And then I refinanced and pulled the cash out and bought another property and did that over and over and over and over again.
Love it. So it's kind of like the Burr method, but in commercial realm. I got it.
Yeah.
Now, As far as once you sold all this due to the COVID and the cap rate decreasing and, the eviction, people not paying their rent or whatever, how you've transitioned into commercial. And it seems like when I met you, it seems like you really love that. What do you like about that versus what you used to do?
It's a completely different universe. The multifamily, there's a lot of, volatility with, rents and occupancy and tenants going in and out, but you can always you can always fill one up in the next day or a week or whatever. And arguably can be much, not too costly to move people in. This is a lot slower moving, a lot bigger players. Everything's expensive. Nothing's cheap. But it's, you're dealing with different kinds of things. You're dealing with corporations and attorneys and people that know what they're doing. So it's fun. It's just fun. Basically dealing with, I was doing low income apartments for 10 years. So it's completely different. So
low income, crack, all kinds of weird stuff you not need to mention on the podcast. I'm curious, what would you say has one of your best investments that you've made that you made and a lesson you learned from it?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is understanding how banks work, right? Because let's say I bought a deal in Mississippi, apartments, a nice size deal, and bought it fair and square from the seller, all that kind of good stuff. Bought through a local bank, local appraiser, all that good stuff, appraised for what I paid for. But I knew, just looking at the numbers and the financials and all that, it was worth more than what I was paying for, right? So again, local bank. So then I called a bank in Atlanta, big regional bank. They want to use their appraisers. They appraised it without me doing anything to it for 40% more than what I paid for it. Wow. Yep, didn't do anything. They just use different comps, and they underwrite differently. They have tighter margins. So that was really exciting. I'm like, well, and then somebody said, hey, you need to call a Wall Street lender, the CMBS lender. So I called them. They appraised it for 60% more than what I paid for it. Didn't do anything to it. 3 months after I bought it. So I'm like, what the heck is going on? So my biggest thing is I like to understand how banks work, because that's all real estate is. It's a debt game. And if you understand that and you understand how they work, what they need and all that kind of stuff, you can, I don't want to say manipulate it, but you can choose and pick and understand, like, be very strategic on how you attack these deals and financing and refinancing and even acquisitions.
Yeah, because if you do the deal and it appraises for more, you can refinance it and get your money, a lot of money back, and go acquire more real estate. Now, but so you have a high tolerance, it seems like a very high tolerance
for risk.
For risk. I remember talking with you, you made a joke, or somebody said it, maybe it wasn't you, you called yourself the debt lord. But it's what you're doing is enabled you to give your family an incredible life. How do you feel protected with that kind of, those assets and that kind of debt? I ask because I want to acquire more.
Yeah, I mean, I have an insane amount of recourse debt right now. More than I should. I'm probably still going to try to get a little bit more, but I have, if hell freezes over and I can't pay your rent, it would wipe me out. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times over, but I'm realistic. I know, like, I owe $20 million in debt, hypothetically, right? And like, oh yeah, they're going to take all it to me. Like, no, the property's still worth money. I have multiple tenants. I take it as a pragmatic approach that, like, yes, I have all this debt, but I have reserves, I have lines of credit, I have cash here, I have other ways to protect me. Again, if the worst thing in the universe happened, it would wipe me out. But I'm a numbers guy. The odds of that happening are slim to none. And I'm able and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Like if I have one of my anchor tenants, one of my main ones, like I have a Ross, one of my tenants. If they leave, it would be pretty challenging for me, right? But I would arguably not allow them to leave. And what I mean is, hey, I'll cut your rent in half. I'll cut your rent by 90%. You're not going nowhere. Let's figure this out. So that's my mindset towards it. I have a mindset of, like, I will figure this out one way or the other.
How did you become such a deal maker? Because ultimately that's what it boils down to, the numbers and the deal.
Grinding, go through 30, 40, 50 deals a day. Talking to brokers every single day, talking to banks every single day, getting so acclimated and accustomed to it. That's just second nature to me. So, I mean, today I'll go through Crexy or whatever. Literally a second ago, a broker just called me. So I'll be giving him a call back. Say, hey, what's going on? Well, what those you have something coming in 2 months. Just constantly talking, constantly working, constantly grinding. You learn so much looking at such a large amount of deals on an often basis that you get to see where the rents are, where the trends are. You just kind of have this big encompassing vision after doing it over and over and over and over again.
Just curious, did you just come from like a shooting range? You look like you got like a shooting range thing on.
Dude, it's a shoulder, keep my back straight because I'm always like on my computer, like typing and stuff. Oh, dude.
You got good posture. I'm curious, somebody who wants to get into triple net leases, because that's a lot of people are like, how do I get started? What do I do? What would a couple tips you'd say to that person?
I mean, is this somebody that's getting into real estate for the very first time?
Let's say they're a contractor and they want to buy a building for themselves, and it has a bunch of other, places people can become a tenant to pay them. That's who our audience is. How would they get started?
With the retail commercial, you just need liquidity. I have a building in North Mississippi that has a 9,000 square foot spot. It's a 100,000 square foot building. There's a 9,000 square foot spot left. And I have a tenant that wants it, right? But for them to come in, they want $30 a foot in tenant improvement money. So is that $270,000? So they want that. Then they want me to get all the lights, the fixtures, all that ready. I got to pay leasing commissions. So it's a crap ton of money to put. Now they'll be there for 15 years, but just be prepared from a financial standpoint to inject some cash. But once you get it stabilized, or if it's already stabilized, it's nice. It's real nice. Really look at the leases. That's really big too.
What's an expensive lesson you've learned doing this?
I haven't had a really bad one yet on commercial yet. I've been doing it for a few years, but I haven't really started ramping it up super hardcore until about 2020. But I mean, the things I'm always looking at is the roofs, parking lots, because usually it says triple net, but triple net is a very, very, very vague word. You go think, oh yeah, the tenant pays the rent, they fix everything. No. I mean, maybe if you buy like a Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or a really nice single tenant asset, but every single property I own, all of them are multi-tenant. The landlord has a good amount of responsibility. Usually you have to replace the roof. Usually you have to replace the parking lot. There's a good chance you have some replacement responsibilities in regards to HVAC. So, and even though you see the leases, even though you see the options to the leases, whenever the tenant's lease is up and they're up to their option, they're there to renegotiate with you. Oh, why don't you give us some money here? Oh, let's change this HVAC. Oh, let's change the lease up. I mean, my day, 95% of it is dealing with, even I got people working for me. Everything's third party managed. I'm still dealing with the renegotiation of leases, especially since they have a good excuse because it's a recession and COVID and all this other kind of bunch of junk.
So you haven't had an expensive lesson in the triple net, but when you were doing the apartments, I'm sure you have, in the low income range, I'm sure you have an expensive lesson there. For an investor who's like, you know what, I want to buy an apartment complex. What was a lesson that you learned in the construction realm side of things?
Don't cheap out on the inspections. I went cheap one time. I don't know how many years ago I didn't do an environmental report. And there was a freaking gas station built on the property before I bought it. And long story short, it ended up being okay, but I mean, that could have been disastrous. Yeah. One time I did not camera. And again, there's a lot of things you can kind of figure out. Like I bought a property in Texas. It was an older build. I mean, probably built in the 50s. and the sewer lines were terracotta. Okay. And I should have snaked them. And I knew they were terracotta, figured it out, but then a hurricane hit it, right? And it had, I don't know, 300 trees. It uprooted all the trees and tore out all the terracotta pipes, just destroyed them.
Oh my God.
So
that was a nasty event. Did insurance help out?
no, they did not do it because the trees that were uprooted just fell straight on the ground, and they would only cover it if the trees were touching a physical building.
And from that lesson, was there any lesson in that for different type of insurance for future scenarios?
I mean, sometimes just things suck. You got to prepare for the suck sometimes. And
it sounds like a motto of yours: prepare for the suck sometimes. Like,
well,
you beat yourself up, you put yourself through pain. Can you elaborate on why you do that to yourself? Because I know that you're an intense dude, and I put myself through discipline as well. What are some of the benefits of putting yourself through pain and discipline, and so you can be strong for when the suck comes?
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just how I'm wired or something. I didn't read a real estate book until like a year or two ago. So part of it's probably ignorance. Part of it's probably just thinking that I can handle whatever, and figuring it out, even if I got to kick the can down the road. But no, man, those lessons were very stressful, very stressful. But again, it's invaluable at the same time. So
that's how diamonds are made, right?
Well, people ask me, like, I have friends like, oh, who, I want to give money to this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. And there's a few guys in GoBundance that this applies to, but I would only give money to people, not only, but look for the people that have failed, that have like made some big mistakes and hasn't crushed them, hasn't wiped them out, hasn't made them fail. Because if they can go through those really hard times and struggles and they're still surviving, still growing, still doing this, they got some grit to them,
I'm going to take that and try to find those people to interview onto the podcast. I love that. So let's talk about your process, your company. You have who's CEO, visionary, the guy who's handling the big relationships, doing the negotiations, working the deals, but then you have the people who are working for you. What does that look like?
It's not much. It's, I have one guy's part-time. I kind of call him my asset manager. He gets a little salary, and then he gets a cut on all my deals in regards to either a commission or a little bit of equity play. And then there's my title attorney who works for another company, but she's runs it all for me. So I really don't have anybody full-time. It's kind of the beauty of this triple net stuff, but everything is third-party managed. We got their leasing agent, all that stuff. So everything's, built out to somebody else. So
that's awesome. So as far as monthly note compared to what you're taking in, could you share that with us?
I don't know exactly, but I have like, I don't know, 700,000 square feet of retail. Okay, something like that, plus or minus. But I sold a deal 2 weeks ago, and I'm selling a deal in hopefully 8 weeks. So my stuff is constantly changing. I'm in 1031 right now, and I have no idea what to do with it, because so I got $1 million just sitting in there right now. I don't know what to do with it. So
yeah, I hear you. Okay, it's detailed. I got you. So I'm curious regarding these massive roofs that you have. My industry is storm restoration. We help guys like you get a new roof paid for by insurance. Regarding that, have you ever looked into the benefits of not triple net, cap rate by putting solar on the roof?
I have never done that. No.
That's something to explore. I could have a conversation with you about that, because these tenants, they're paying the rent, right? Of the electricity.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a little money center right there for sure. So, dude, I'm going through when I go through tough times, believe it or not, based off you being my camp buddy at the GoBundance thing, I'm like, God, Ryan, he's tough.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, like, how would Ryan handle this? I'm not even joking. Whenever I'm getting issues with my business and heavy levels of stress, I'm like, oh yeah, well, Ryan's doing massive things and he just scrubs it off his shoulder. What would you say is one of a secret to success for somebody who at your level that you continuously do besides the financing component that makes your process unique?
Oh man. I mean, I do like, besides the financing part and the numbers part, I mean, it's my mindset. I mean, all the books of Think and Grow Rich and all that about it's all so freaking true. It's ridiculous. I mean, realistically, I just had this unwavering belief in myself. And if everything does hit the fan, I'm going to throw my money like in Bitcoin, go hide in an island somewhere. So,
hey, that's a good idea. I like that.
I'll go to Costa Rica with you, man.
Let's go, bro. The surf is good, man.
Yeah, I mean, just there's. I've been told so many times, no. It's not even funny. Even my parents, who now have like sold everything they have and given me all their money, and I've invested it for them. So from telling me no to like, hey, Ryan, I'll give you all my money. I'm like, and of course I want to take care of my parents. But no, man, it's that desire, it's that persistence, it's that I'm not going to fail mentality. That's really it. I mean, as simple as that. And then, of course, having the drive to grind until, I mean, in 2022, I bought 2 deals this year, but I failed on 30, 40, 50 deals that I wanted, that I spent my time, my effort calling banks, researching, flying up there to go look at. And I'm like, all right, I want this deal. And then there's 20 other people that want it. And I failed over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, okay, you got to wait for the next one now. So that was hard.
When you fly to those places, you don't just hop on a normal commercial plane. You told me you fly on sometimes like a private jet, and the cost.
No. I mean, I have a little. I mean, I am getting my pilot's license right now, which will hopefully be soon. No, I have a little plane that I lease that has a pilot. Now it's a little 4-seater Cirrus. No, man, I'm too cheap to go rent a jet. But I have a jet on my wall right now, that a Honda jet that I want to have in 5 years. But
nice. You got to have dreams.
Got dreams, but I want to fly it too. So
that's cool. So regarding benefits that what has GoBundance done for you? How has it pull you out and make you a bigger, better version of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I like GoBundance. GoBundance to me is 10%, 15% business related for me, in regards to like connections and like, bigger dreams. And GoBundance to me is everything else. My mindset, family, books to read, where areas to grow. Because I feel like I'm good on I have the drive for business. Actually, business to me is third on my list of things. I have my wife, my family, then business. I mean, I'm trying to slow down right now, to be honest with you. Even though I'm still like addicted to them, I'm still a deal junkie.
Deal junkie.
It's bad, man. I mean, this broker called me, right? I'm like, I cannot wait to give him a call. See what you got for me, man. What you got for me?
You got for me, baby.
That was bad. It's the dopamine rush is real. I mean, as soon as I close a big deal, I closed my biggest deal ever like 6 weeks ago. And
walk us through that. Walk us through the details.
So, all right, I did 1031. The deal was in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, a 6-year-old deal. I mean, beautiful, small market, but all the numbers and everything looked good. It was 170,000 square feet. I paid 22 for it. Own it by myself, which is really exciting. Which I own most of my stuff by myself. But yeah, I've only seen it once. And my first deal I bought in 2020, I've only seen it once. So let's go look at it. But no, I want to go check it out. I had to fight tooth and nail to win it. I mean, I had to put down
tooth and nail to win it.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I won it the first day before a hiking trip. I don't know if you were there.
Oh yeah. No, I remember that. But when you say fight tooth and nail, what did you have to do? Fighting tooth and nail.
Well, there was 6 other companies that wanted it, and when you're buying deals at that size, it's not little mom and pop. It's funds, REITs, corporations. I mean, dudes that have way more money than me. So I had to
competitive advantage that made you. How'd you come out on top on that?
Sure. So when they start the marketing process, which whenever you're buying deals like this, there's no or very rarely is oh, let's go find it off market, right? These, especially with how the real estate market is, these funds and REITs, these publicly traded companies, they have a responsibility to their shareholders and their company, and their partners, whoever, to market it. Especially right now, whenever they're getting 8 offers on it, so they market it. There's a 30-day period, 45-day period of marketing it. The broker says, all right, this is the price we're shooting for, right? And they say, this is the price we're shooting for, and it's within my metrics. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go balls to the wall. Again, maybe one of those 30 times where I fail, but I'm going balls to the wall. I'm doing my underwriting. I'm calling my banks, getting the financing ready. I'm ordering appraisals before I even win the deal, with the only goal being is whenever I go put my final offer in, the other groups need 70, 80, 90 days to close. I can close it 40 days, right? I now have my financing in place. I have my appraisal done, and then I offer them non-refundable money that, they get that no matter what. And it's not $1,000. It's always 6 figures or more.
Yeah. So you invest your time, you invest your money, you invest in the client. Like, you come to the table with everything ready, and you are like, I'm freaking serious. I love that.
Yeah, no, I'm $20,000, $30,000 in the hole if they tell me no.
Right. Could you share with us another epic story of an acquisition prior to that, and how it went down? And I'll pull out information from you as we go.
Yeah. I bought a deal in December. I closed on December 30th, 2021 in Shreveport, Louisiana. It was like an 11 cap on actual numbers, and it was 80% occupied. Beautiful building, but everybody was scared of tenants because there's like Talbots and Chicos and JJ, a bunch of soft women's retailers, and I knew the market, so I had a bunch of apartments there, and I'm like, dude, I'm going for it. And I paid 10 for it and appraised for 19, and it's been a freaking cash cow for me, and I've seen it once. Yeah.
Way to go, brother. That's lit. So who's a bad tenant for you in the triple net space? What, describe that, not a good tenant, kind of risky, compared to obviously an amazing tenant like the Ross or the Home Depot. Share some insight on that.
Well, Ross is a big corporate tenant, but they're a pain in the butt to deal with. Ross is known throughout the industry as tough as nails. You try to call them, they won't call you back. You try to email, they won't email you back, but they pay rent. During COVID, sometimes, they didn't pay rent for a handful of months. I had a buddy in Go Bunny said they didn't pay him for 18 months. So I think they eventually paid, but no, they're corporate, their credit, they people want them, but they're not easy to deal with. I think the most challenging tenants usually like the mom and pops. The food industry is tough. I've lost a few yogurt tenants, which I don't even know why you would ever open a yogurt business, but that's beyond me. But there's a lot of weaker tenants that we're trying to renegotiate terms right now. K Jewelers renegotiated me a couple of deals because sales are down. You got to be prepared. That's why I don't buy any 5 or 6 cap deals, just because the numbers don't make sense to me. I have to buy higher yield stuff for those exact same reasons. Whenever it's like, oh crap, COVID, recession, whatever excuse it may be, I'm like, okay, I'll give you a 5% rent reduction or 10%, and everybody can still eat, kind of thing. So
yeah, curious your next great adventure. One of the things you always do is you push yourself and do epic stuff. You just got back from like a 12-day incredible trip, but I know you're always thinking about, man, what am I going to do next? What are your thoughts?
Man, Well, I want to get my pilot's license. That's going to be epic, just to get that off the list. Business wise or like personal wise?
Both.
I want to do 1 to 3 big deals a year. I don't want to do anything small anymore. I want to go to Europe for 2 months with my family. I want to do that real bad, real bad. So, yeah.
Where would you go?
I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't know. Someplace that is like big and beautiful that can bring 3 kids and a wife and that we can. I don't know. I need help with that. So I reached out to some guys that gave recommendations, probably somewhere in Italy, but I haven't explored. I've only been to a handful of places in Europe, so I don't know a fraction of what I need to know.
Curious, would you say is your best investment you've ever made? Not into yourself, but your best performing investment.
Oh gosh. Best investment. Man, it's crazy. Like whenever I was buying apartments back in the day, it was a different universe back in the day. It was nothing for me to find stabilized apartments for $25,000 an apartment. Nothing. So, that deal I told you about in Mississippi that appraised. So it was 280 apartments. I paid 5.6 for it. Okay. And then I went to the next bank. They appraised it for 11. And then some other, so they told me to call HUD, they do 40-year loans, 2.7% interest. They appraised it at 13.8. And they were going to loan me 80% on that. That's a whole different lesson that I learned from that because HUD's crazy tough. But I ended up selling that to my best friend and made a killing on it. And now he's about to sell me a killing on it. So that was probably my best deal I ever did. I paid $17,000 an apartment for it. And it was 95% occupied.
That's awesome. Man, Ryan, I know your time is extremely valuable, and I honor you for giving me some of it today. We've talked about creative financing. We've talked about lucrative investments. We've talked about, the importance of having that balance with wife, kids, and business instead of the other way around. Yeah. And I can't thank you enough, brother. Thank you for being on the Real Construction Owners Podcast today.
No problem.
Peace.